Alan's loose feeding pellet at regular intervals. What length are you fishing at, Alan? How much pole you got out there?
About 13 and a half.
About 13.5 metres. And what's the size of the pellets?
Just 6 mil banded pellet.
Okay. And you're loose feeding 6 mil.
Yeah.
And putting in what, half a dozen or so at a time?
Yeah, five or six pellets. I mean, the secret to pellet fishing is to feed and then stop for a little while. Often the fish come to the noise, and of course they're in your peg, but then, you know, the panic, I've just spoke one away there. I think I'm fishing a little bit deep. I've only just really started and I've not really got the depth at where fish are yet. And I think that one came in quite shallow then, so I need to shallow up a little. But the secret is to feed and get fish there and make noise by slapping, like helicoptering the rig round. So you're making noise all the time and feed, and then stop feeding for a little period, and often then is the time that you're more likely to get a bite than feeding constantly.
Okay. So when you're not feeding, you do more slapping, do you?
Yes.
To simulate bait dropping onto the surface.
That's exactly it.
Now, there's a technique to holding the catapult, Alan, in your hand while you're holding the pole at the same time. A lot of anglers.
Yeah, it's a technique. You've more or less got to use your elbow on the top of the pole. Hence, I've got a dolly butt fitted to the pole so that you're not going to put any cracks in the pole. Okay. And then it's just a case of the elbows on top of the pole supporting the pole in place.
So that your legs, yep.
That frees both your hands up then. So both your hands are free. The bait, again, I've got a bait weighter quite close to me. I could even have it slightly closer to me than where I've got it. So I can pick up some pellets and literally just put 5 or 6 pellets around the float.
And you managed to do that without waving the pole around all over the shop.
Yeah, this wind's just dropped a little bit. We've just had a little bit of a breeze on for a while. It's just dropped a little bit, but it's quite, just a tech then as it settled. There's 1 or 2 roach about, but there's a carp does keep coming in, so I think it's only a matter of time before I catch one. But it's using a catapult is a technique that it takes a little bit of practice, but once you've mastered it, it's quite easy just to pick up the pellets and just flick 5 or 6 pellets around the float.
Right.
So I've got a Camasan B911. I've got probably below, there's a carp in my peg now, yeah. Below the actual hook bottom, I've got about probably 6 mil of line to the actual band. And then a banded pellet just, you know, in the band as a bait.
Now when you're firing this catapult, you've got one of these Team England catapults with quite a strong elastic. You need that for that distance, do you?
No, not really. I mean, you could pick a catapult with, you know, quite a light elastic like that. But what I prefer myself, I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but to fire the pellets like that, it's more or less a flick with a light catapult, and I tend to use a slightly heavier catapult. I tend to fish this distance, is to pick the one with the stronger elastic and then catapult them at the float more, so they just make a little bit more noise, to be honest.
I see. Firing them at the surface, as it were.
Yeah, I think you can be slightly more accurate and also make a little bit more noise.
Yeah, you can hear it peppering the surface a bit louder. There's definitely a carp there.
Yeah, it's they're proving a little bit difficult to catch.
And this method usually takes a couple of hours to get it really going well, because it's so you build a swim up gradually.
Often when I fish shallow, I'll start off feeding, you know, maybe at the start of the match, and it might be an hour before I even pick it up. I mean, we've tried to sort of catch a fish straight away from feeding from the start. So quite difficult, to be honest. You know, once you get fish feeding confidently shallow, then you know you can catch really big weights of fish. And of course the catapult is the main part of fishing shallow, because if you get that right, where you can put the pellets right around the float all the time, you're drawing fish into that area constantly. And what you do find with carp is that they never come in ones. There's usually, when they come in your peg, there'll be 5 or 6 of them.
There's a bit of activity out there now, you can see it.
It's proving a little bit difficult to catch, but...
And do you vary the slapping as well, Alan? You do 3 or 4 slaps and maybe 2 next time, or do you have an optimum number of slaps?
Oh, just boiled one away there.
Quite a big fish too, wasn't it?
Yeah, again, it was after a period of just waiting a few,
Yeah.
you know, sort of a little period before you feed. You can almost feel it when you're fishing shallow. You feel your way along almost, and you know once you've fed maybe 4 or 5 times, it's just then just a case of just waiting.
And although that bait is sunk fully to its foot or 18 inches depth, and it's in suspension, that's all right, is it? No particular problem?
No, I mean, when you're fishing shallow, all the bait that goes down sort of null and void, you know, your bait that you're firing in is attracting the fish. Because I'm feeding 6mm pellets, they make quite a lot of noise, but once they've gone to the bottom, the sort of, you know, the null and voids, and that's why you can feed.
Then, are they?
Yeah, that's why you can feed quite a lot of bait. I mean, if I was going to fish pellets, it's a roach. If I were going to fish pellets on the deck, I would never feed as many as this, because here you've got quite a soft bottom, and just pinging probably 2 and 3, 4 pellets to fish on the bottom would be ample. You know, once you start feeding constantly 5 or 6 pellets, then you'd probably wreck your bottom.
Yeah. Now on these catapults, I tend to use the lighter elastics, thinner, softer elastics when I'm fishing short, because they're stretchier and I can get better accuracy with it, because I'm not firing at the surface and trying to create a splash.
Yeah.
I'm fishing in pretty virgin waters that don't get much disturbance, so I'm just looking to drop bait, maybe maggot or caster or something, on the float. Do you do the same thing, Gary? Do you use the softer, lighter elastic at short range?
Yeah, when I'm fishing sort of 11 metres back, 11.5 metres back, I tend to use the delicates, but 13 metres and beyond, a match catty tends to be better, because especially when you've got a wind on, because you need to, especially if you've got a headwind on, you need to punch the bait out through the wind and still remain accurate. And so with Alan, I prefer a match catty for distance, but I do use the delicates for 11.5 metres or shorter.
I like the ones with the nylon pouches.
That's my preference, because they seem to stay open and hold their form.
Hold their shape better, don't they?
And that's my personal favourite, is nylon pouch.
Yeah. And I like the ones with the little tiny pouches. If you are trying to feed delicate, the smaller the pouch, it almost dictates how much you can feed, doesn't it?
It takes a nice pinch of bait, that's it.
I think there's really 2 trains of thought here. You've got natural fishing, where you're firing probably casters, squats and baits like that, where the lighter catapult, you know, is a bonus. But of course, when you're carp fishing, a lot of time you're trying to create noise to draw fish into the area. So actually firing down with a catapult onto the lake to make noise
the surface
is a big bonus.
Yeah, you can see that. You can actually hear it slapping the water.
On the delicates, we're using a synthetic rubber, which has got a very long life and doesn't deteriorate with ultraviolet. It's UV stabilised and everything, but it doesn't have the punch and the elastic recovery of natural latex. So if you want to go a distance, or you want to fire things at the surface with a bit of power, then you've got to go on to the natural latex on the
on and off.
All that time, up one and lose it.
one or two in the area now. It's a matter of time. And the key with the shallow water fishing, Alan, is to keep varying the depth to find where the fish want to feed at.
Yeah, I've shallowed up a little bit to where I started it. I don't know whether I'd probably get away with even a shorter line than that now. It is quite coloured, this lake, but not as coloured as some lakes on Complex, and that's why I've tried to keep main line a little bit longer.
Yeah, you can just keep the tip away a little bit, can't you, from there?
Yeah.
And they definitely spook off the tips of these wary carp, and it's sometimes a good idea to have a long line.
And its sun's gone in as well now, which might help us a
Yes.
little bit to catch one. And it's that wind's just got up now. I'm just firing bait everywhere.
Yeah, you've got a bit of a variable crosswind once you go beyond the trees.
Yeah, it just picks up a bit. So.
Better. I think probably me talking and not quite concentrating as well, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But
Well, you're making it look easy, Alan, so...
I'm making excuses for myself.
You do.
You're keeping that pole remarkably still, Alan, and firing consistently out there. I'd be waggling it about all over the place.
Yeah, I've took quite a few people out for lessons fishing, and it's a thing that it's a basic thing that most anglers get wrong. You need to be sat with your legs totally flat. So when I say flat, you can rest the pole across them, and of course your forearm then is literally holding all the weight of the pole, so your hands are free to use the catapult. And all you're doing to strike is just lifting with your knee.
Right.
But as soon as you're sat actually physically holding the pole, if your legs are facing down or facing up, and you're actually having to hold the pole, then you can't fish like this. So just having a foot platform on your box and being able to set it at the right height just allows you to fish easily.
So you keep this regular feeding pattern going out at all times?
Yeah, it's important even when you hook a fish as to keep feeding that line constantly. This is one little mistake that a lot of anglers do when they're fishing shallow, as they don't keep the momentum. Once they've hooked a fish like that, right, what you've got to do is to try to keep feeding as well. So even though I've hooked a fish, I can let the elastic work, and I can ship back and just keep the elastic tight to the fish. Come back a little bit. So I can keep the elastic tight to the fish. I can just put the pole onto my legs. I've got one or two snags here, so I'm being a little bit careful. And just keep feeding the peg as I'm playing the fish. With the light elastic, you've got plenty of elastic to keep in contact with the fish.
So you might be playing this fish for several minutes.
Yeah, if it's a big fish,
well, let your swim go quiet.
Not necessarily a big fish. I mean, sometimes 3, 4, 5 pound fish fight very, very hard. So if you can just keep feeding your line and just keep the fish interested while you're playing them. And I've hooked this one on quite a deep, shallow rig, so I can take my time at landing it. I mean, you're building your peg up all the time.
I can make a right mess of that sort of thing.
Again, it's practice, same as you say. So, you can feed while you're playing fish all the time, keep them there. And again, this is quite a big fish. Just shorten elastic down. You could almost keep your catapult in your hand constantly, but all you're doing while you're feeding out there, while you're playing fish, all you're doing is building it back up. So if you're in a match fishing circumstance, you can go straight back out and hook another one straight away. I mean, you've got to think of this, which fish in a match fishing circumstance is the most important? The one I'm playing or the ones I'm preparing?
Right.
And probably the ones that you're preparing are just as important as this one that you've got on.
Good quality fish in here, aren't they?
Yeah,
Absolutely
good fish.
beautiful, so a good stamp.
Yeah.
So again, while that fish has gone out again, as long as it don't go towards that tree, I can safely drop a few pellets in and just feed again. It's amazing sometimes when you're playing a fish, I can actually feed tighter than when I've actually got hold of the pole. They are big fish. They're not, you won't need to catch many of these fish for 100 plus pound. That is a fact. Come on.
There we go.
So again, if you're set up right as well, you can put your pole underneath your arm. Even before you up the fish, you can feed again. Just feed that line, get them fish interested. Unhook your fish and now you go and hopefully hook another one straight away. That's just using a catapult shallow fishing.
Good stuff.